The Eagles got embarrassed by the 49ers on about Sunday afternoon. It was a 42-19 blowout. Brock Purdy threw for over 300 yards, as well as also had 4 touchdowns on the day. Jalen Hurts threw for just under 300 yards and 2 total touchdowns. You had the Eagles winning this game. I had the 49ers winning this game, and that turned out to be the case. The 49ers did end up winning this game. I want to know, do you still think the Eagles are the best team in the NFC?
No.
You're coming around.
Yeah. I think the 49ers proved that they're the best team in the NFC anyway, right? Maybe the best team in all of the NFL. I think that the 49ers exposed the Eagles defense, right? That we went over their stats, the Eagles stats on defense, and they ranked pretty low in many categories. And that was exposed by the 49ers, who looked great in this game. They had all their tools, all the players were out there. And that's the thing with the 49ers, as we said in prior shows, if they've got all their players out on the field, they're very hard to beat. And they proved it on Sunday. They crushed the Eagles.
Absolutely. And when I thought of this topic, I was like, yeah, I mean, I already had them as the best team in the NFC. I had them in the best team in the NFL. My Nate's Notches, I had them number 1 team in the NFL, and they put on display there. We got to think about this now for the 49ers. What happened last season, right? The Eagles were, I believe, 11-0, then they lost to the Commanders. I believe they finished the year, was a 13-4 to a 14-3, something like that. But they were blowing out teams. The offense, A.J. Brown, deep shot. Devontae Smith, deep shot. Nowadays, it's hard-nosed, head down in the trenches, winning games, but still, it was very, very difficultly won games. The 49ers this season, when healthy, they're blowing out teams, and not only blowing out teams in general, but destroying really, really good teams. I think we say the Cowboys are a pretty damn good team. They're 42, and they beat them 42-10. The Eagles game we just saw, 42-19. The Jacksonville Jaguars, who at the time were on a decent winning streak, they beat them 34-3. So, in my opinion, not only are the 49ers the best team in the NFC, this team, when healthy, is the best team in the entirety of the NFL. And you take a look at their schedule now. Home against the Seahawks, at Cardinals, home against the Ravens, at Commanders, home against the Rams. There's a very high likelihood they win out, and they finish the year 14-3.
Yeah.
The Ravens are really their only other competition.
Yeah, that will be an interesting game.
And the Ravens are without Mark Andrews. We saw the first game against the Chargers, and that Chargers defense was abysmal. Now, we're not going to talk about the Patriots because their offense is terrible.
Well.
But the Chargers defense this season has been very, very bad. And the Ravens only, before that Zay Flowers' incredible run at late in the game to put the team up by 10, there were 13 points of offense against that Chargers defense, and Lamar Jackson threw for 170 yards. So that Ravens offense wasn't even that good against a defense that this season, and since Brandon Staley got there, has been so bad. So now we're going up against this 49ers team without Mark Andrews, without or with a great pass rush that the 49ers have. Is it really a competition? And besides that, on top of that, the Ravens in the fourth quarter with double-digit leads, they are prone to losing those games, which is surprising with a superstar quarterback.
Yeah, well, I think the good chance you're going to see a rematch of this game in the NFC championship game, Eagles 49ers. Very good chance that will happen.
You think so?
Yeah, I do, and I think the Eagles. I think the Eagles will play better in that game. I think they learn a lot from this one, and I think they'll play better, and it'll be a closer game. But I do think it will be a rematch of Sunday's game and also of last year's NFC Championship game and Brock Purdy hopefully won't tear his UCL ligament and which really it's messed up that game. That ruined that game, right? I mean,
and they put in Josh Johnson?
He got hurt.
He got hurt 5 plays into the game.
And then
he was already out.
Yeah, and then Purdy came back in, and he couldn't do it. They knew he couldn't throw it.
He couldn't throw it.
All he could do was hand it off. Right. That's it. And so, I don't know. That was a disappointing game, but hopefully that doesn't happen this time around.
Well, that's the big thing, right?
And maybe I bet you're thinking that the Cowboys get to the NFC Championship game, right? Huh? That's what I'm thinking.
Hey, I haven't said my take on that yet, but
we'll see. The Cowboys still play the Eagles once more, right?
They play the Eagles actually this week.
Yeah,
and that was what I said before this game. I said
the Eagles they've had a tough schedule, man.
7 straight games against teams that they've had trouble with.
Yeah, so maybe they will run out of gas a little bit in this game on Sunday.
That's why I think we can't take so much into this. Now, definitely we could say the 49ers are tremendous because I'll also say this. They bounced the first quarter. The 49ers looked dead. They had -6 yards of total offense. Purdy was 0 for 3 on passes. The Eagles defense showed up big time. I'm like, oh my God. The comments section is going to be brutal. I mean, it was, but for you, not for me. But and then all of a sudden, the offense, Deebo Samuel's making screenplays into 65-yard touchdowns. He was running angry. CMC, we talk about unstoppable players in the league, right? No one is able to stop CMC since he got to the 49ers. Not even really when he was on the Panthers, they could stop him very well. And that's why I think, and there's a big argument here now. Who's the MVP? Now, I actually have the MVP odds right now. We're going to show this right now for our YouTube audience. Dak Prescott and Brock Purdy currently co-hold the leaders for MVP odds.
I thought Jalen Hurts was the leader for that.
That was before this game.
He dropped to number 3 now.
He dropped to number 3.
Brock Purdy is up at number 2 now, huh?
Well, tied for number 1.
Tied for number 1.
So, Dak Prescott and Purdy hold the lead. And here's what I'm going to say about it.
But put that back up there. You went too fast for me. So, Lamar Jackson is in there. Mahomes. I don't think Mahomes is number 4 now. The way he played this past game. He got beat by the Packers.
Yeah.
He has no wide receivers. I feel bad for him there. Tua, I think, might be ranked higher. Should be ranked higher than Mahomes and Lamar, right?
And here's what's interesting about that. And my argument for this is: are we sure these quarterbacks are the reason why this team is so dominant? Are they the best players on that offense? And when you look at the 49ers, Tyreek Hill, by the way, is about to break, and he's a little over 500 yards away from getting 2,000.
He's going to get it.
He's probably going to get it. He may need all 17 games, all 18 weeks, but we don't know. He could have a 150-yard game over and over again, making 3 or 4 games. We don't know exactly what the guy can do.
Still, how many games left? 5?
There are 5 games left.
5 games left, so
it's 100 yards a game.
Yeah,
which is very easy for him. Tyreek Hill. Very, very easy.
Some games he gets 200.
Right. But here's my thing with Brock Purdy. Is he the best player? Just let's have this. Now, I'm not even going to say on the team. How about just on the offense? Is Brock Purdy the best player on that offense? You could argue he's 3rd on that offense.
Really?
Maybe,
you think so?
Maybe 4th or 5th on the team. CMC.
I don't think so.
CMC. Trent Williams, Deebo Samuel, you could argue. If you want to throw George Kittle in there, I don't know if you would, but I'm not. I
don't think so.
So those 3 players just on the offense. If you go to the defense, Nick Bosa, would you throw Fred Warner in there? You have players who on the team are so great. You look at CMC's production and look at the next running back over to him. There's no comparison.
No, I think that's a hard comparison because the quarterback handles the ball on every play, right? Those guys don't.
Not really. The 49ers hand the ball off a lot.
No, but the quarterback takes the snap. The quarterback makes the decisions.
As long as the
quarterback changes the play at the line of scrimmage. The quarterback reads the defense. I think that's hard to make a judgment about whether the quarterback is whether a quarterback or some other player is the best player on the team. I would say it's hard to make a judgment about that.
And here's an argument that I think is completely, completely viable and should mean something. Brock Purdy is number 1 in a lot of stats, right? Yards per attempt. I don't know exactly all the stats. I think it's completion percentage. Yeah, completion percentage he's number 1 in. He's not as high. He's 7th in passing yards, but he's number 1 in yards per attempt. He has 23 touchdowns, 6 picks, which is the second best ratio in the top 5. The first highest would be Dak Prescott at 26 and 6. If you talk about people with 20 touchdowns or more. But if we look at his average depth of target, I don't know where people are getting that he's number 1 in that. Yes, yards per pass he would be, meaning it's completions to yards. That's what that means. If you're talking about intended air yards, which is just you throw the ball, it doesn't need to be completed, If we go all the way down, average depth of target, we have to go all the way down to number 17. He's 17th in the league.
So you're
in
saying
average
he's
depth
a
of target.
dink and dunk.
Baker Mayfield, P.J. Walker, Jordan Love, Ryan Tannehill, Will Levis, Jimmy G, who doesn't even play anymore, Dak Prescott, Desmond Ridder, Derek Carr, all throw the ball deeper than Brock Purdy does. Brock Purdy could throw it 5 yards. We saw it before. Brock Purdy makes a throw. The camera obviously goes to the receiver. There's no one on the screen. That's how wide open these guys are. And that's more Kyle Shanahan that I said is Brock Purdy. Because you and I can make that throw. That isn't a hard throw to make when there's no one around the guy.
Yeah.
And
he makes some good throws, though.
You know
what? And I think, you know what? And Sunday, after the first quarter, he was a world beater. He looked great out there. He really looked smooth.
CMC, that's what I'm saying.
He looked smooth. His throws were really crisp. They were very accurate. He looked like the second coming of Tom Brady out there. He did. 6th-round draft pick. 6th-round draft pick. Drafted. Was he the last player taken?
Brock Purdy was the last
player taken in the draft. Look at him. He's looking really good. I'm high on Brock Purdy. I think he's good.
Jimmy G went to a Super Bowl, and we've argued before that a lot of people don't realize that Jimmy G isn't a Josh Allen or Mahomes where he should throw it 65 yards and put on his display of how much of an arm he has. That wasn't Kyle Shanahan's offense. That wasn't the scheme. That wasn't how Jimmy G should play. How Jimmy G played was getting the ball to the open receiver. That was Jimmy G's game. That was how he made his money. That's how they got to 2 NFC championship games and a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy's the same. The only difference is we don't put Jimmy G in a top 10 quarterback list or give Jimmy G MVP votes because we acknowledge that, look, the talent around him. But now because Brock Purdy makes it look a little bit prettier, but it's the same exact thing. You can look at the numbers when Jimmy G got CMC on that team. He was incredible. The interceptions, I believe, in the first full start. So after the Kansas City game, Jimmy G did not have a single interception. I think he had 7 touchdowns, no picks, over 100 passer rating. I mean, the guy was insane.
It doesn't hurt to have great players around you.
I understand that, but we shouldn't give the MVP award, if we're being honest here, the MVP award has become a quarterback award. That's what it's become.
And rightfully so, I think.
I don't think so, because if we look at Tyreek Hill is the main piece of that offense. I guarantee you, if Tyreek Hill was maybe a third of who he is or 2/3 of who he is right now and had maybe, 1,100, 1,200 yards instead of damn near 1,500 going on 2,000 like he promised in the offseason this past year, is Tua going to be the same? Are they going to still have one of the most dynamic offenses? And not only that, they also have a top 3 running game in the NFL as well.
Obviously, Tyreek Hill is a very big difference maker because look at the Chiefs this year without him.
Well, you can also say that last year and they won the Super Bowl.
They did win but they had better wide receivers last year than they have this year. But Tyreek Hill would be making a big difference for them this year.
Absolutely, I would agree with that.
Given the talent they have at wide receiver this year, the guys can't even hang on to the ball.
Right.
They drop the ball regularly. They suffered from some bad penalties this week.
We're going to talk about that. I've that last drive was brutal.
Yeah.
But for me, I can't put a guy when on the same team, not even on different teams, in the same system under basically the same scenario, playing along the same players. We give the credit to the team and say Jimmy G had so much help. This guy can't be a top 10 quarterback. This guy's below average, but because of his talent, he's okay. Yet on Brock Purdy, he's so good. Oh, he's incredible. He's the best quarterback I've ever seen. His talent, Brady, Kurt Warner, all these different things.
Obviously, a lot of people think so. He's ranked tied for number 1 in the MVP voting right now.
You give credit to one quarterback because he turns the ball over once in a crucial spot. Oh, crucify him. But God forbid Brock Purdy he just makes it look a little bit nicer. It's the same thing. He's throwing 8-yard passes, and that's what Jimmy G did.
So who do you think should be the MVP?
For me, the problem with
who's the MVP on the 49ers? Who do you think the MVP is on the 49ers?
I would give it to CMC. I would give it to Christian McCaffrey. You can't stop the guy. He is literally
he scores a touchdown in every game.
Think about this. It's crazy to think about. He's the first 1,000-yard 49er rusher since Frank Gore in 2014. They haven't had a 1,000-yard rusher since 2014. Of course, Christian McCaffrey's the first one to do it. Mm-hmm. For me, it's C-Mac.
And how about in the league? Who is the MVP?
See, the hard thing to say is, I'll bring it up again. It's going to be very difficult to give it to Dak Prescott just because the level of competition that he played. They haven't beaten anyone currently that has a better than 500 record. The Seahawks at the time, but when the Cowboys beat them, they dropped the 500. It's very, very difficult. The fact that Mahomes is here in the top 4 and he hasn't played that well for his career, he's having a very, very poor year. He's the worst in his career in a bunch of statistical categories. I would move Lamar Jackson up a little bit, actually. And if the offense sputters because no Mark Andrews, then that's rendered invalid because it doesn't make any sense. The offense isn't the same. But I think we need to... I think Dak Prescott, I would say I would put up there just because he's having a tremendous year. And yes, the level of competition is not exactly the greatest. But still...
No, they play the Giants 2 more times.
Think about in the past 14 home games the Cowboys have had, they averaged 37 points a game. That's nearly unheard of. So it's very difficult, but at least talk about the 49ers.
So you think it's Dak Prescott, it's Lamar Jackson. Those would be your 2 picks?
I'm not saying Lamar Jackson the MVP right now. I'm saying he needs to be moved up from tied for 5th with Tua. C-Mac and Tyreek Hill should get more votes and higher odds than they do now.
It's all quarterbacks there.
It's all quarterbacks, and that's the sad thing about the award. It's become an all-quarterback award. When you have players like Christian McCaffrey, and when you have dominant defensive players like Aaron Donald in his career,
no, maybe they should have more awards. Maybe there should be more awards out there.
You have what the offensive player of the year. That goes to literally every other position.
That could be a quarterback too. Just say
It generally isn't, but yeah, no, it's usually given to a wide receiver or something like that, and that is sort of you could argue that's the MVP for skill position players because the quarterback you give him the MVP like Rodgers won the MVP. Was it last year, the year before?
When was the last time a non-quarterback won the MVP award?
Would it be Adrian Peterson when he was on the Vikings? Would that be the last one?
Was it that far back? There must be one or two.
I think
others.
It was Adrian Peterson when he had that 2,000-yard rushing season.
Yeah.
So
running backs can get it if they have that kind of a season.
When
Derrick Henry.
2,000 yards.
Derrick Henry ever won an MVP?
He has not won an MVP. I'm saying CMC should get some votes. I don't think he will. Tyreek Hill should get some votes. He's literally about to break NFL history. And yet everyone's just like, Tyreek Hill, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott. Yeah. This guy's breaking NFL history here. Even Cooper Kupp, he didn't break Calvin Johnson's record.
He hasn't broken it yet.
But Cooper Kupp was close. He didn't break it. He still got MVP votes. I don't get it. I don't get it. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.